This is Special Prosecutor Larry Klayman.
I'm the only lawyer ever to obtain a court ruling that a president of the United States committed a crime.
For truth. For competition.
As a young lawyer, I helped break up AT&T. That's why you have all your cell phones today.
For sovereignty. For the Republic.
I'm the guy who at Judicial Watch, which I founded, uncovered the Chinagate scandal. Millions of dollars going to the Clinton campaign, corrupting our political system.
For the privacy of citizens.
And I'm the only guy to have enjoined the National Security Agency from mass surveillance on hundreds of millions of Americans.
Tearing it up.
I'm the son of meatpackers in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. I know how to slice and dice.
Bringing it back.
We're going to take this country apart and put it back together again in the way envisioned by our founding fathers.
It's not just talk.
We're not just regurgitating news stories. Larry Klayman, special prosecutor, is making the news.
And now, here's Larry.
Welcome to this week's edition of Special Prosecutor with Larry Klayman. Very, very dire times. Could get a lot more dire this Tuesday with the election. I got to tell you something. I have a bad feeling about the result of this election. I don't know what it is. I pray to God that I'm wrong. I support President Trump. I have supported him. He had been his law firm at Freedom Watch and Klayman Law Group, PA, now for 4 years, even though he didn't ask us to be, and even though he went off and had other lawyers that kept him mired and enmeshed in a Russian collusion investigation. If they had done what I had done with Dr. Jerome Corsi, when he was named as person number one in the indictment of Roger Stone, perhaps he would have had to go through all of this witch hunt. But you know what? It has weakened him. We know that it's weakened him. And it's part of the reason why the Ukrainian scandal and the Russian and Chinese scandal of Joe Biden is so insignificant, I think, in terms of how voters are going to vote, because they've just been overwhelmed with the scandals, alleged scandals on the part of the president, which wasn't a scandal. But he did make a dumb remark when he asked Putin to get Hillary Clinton's email. He kind of handed it to them. And it's those kinds of dumb remarks that perhaps are why he's so close in terms of the election to Joe Biden. A lot of people say it's going to be a blowout. A lot of people around me say that. I just don't think it's going to be, because the American people don't vote for people. They vote against people. That's how we got Clinton. That's how we got Obama. That's how George W. Bush was thrown out, the idiot George W. Bush. And that's how even we got Trump with regard to Obama. So I pray to God that I'm wrong. But we must be prepared. And we see what's going on in Philadelphia as we speak, my native city, the birthplace of liberty, looting, burning, stealing, maiming, shootings, killings. This is going to happen in and around November 3rd with the election, regardless of who is declared the early victor, because the other side is not going to accept it, particularly the radical left, composed of radical Muslims, radical blacks, radicals of the Jewish left, radical feminists, radical atheists, radical LGBTQ, radicals of all religions, stripes, colors, and creeds. The country is going to explode. And that's why we're having as our guest today Sheriff Joe Arpaio, that courageous sheriff from Arizona, America's Sheriff. We formed a new group, americassheriff.org. There's two S's in the middle, americassheriff.org. And I urge you to go there and enlist in americassheriff.org. You can even buy a badge as on our website with regard to America's Sheriff. Maybe it'll help you with traffic tickets, if nothing else. And this is something that needs to be said, and we need to prepare. And the American people need to reread the Second Amendment, because it gives you the right to bear arms, not to use offensively, but defensively. It also allows the American people to commission militias. There's nothing dirty about the word militia. The left tries to make it into a dirty word. It's not. In fact, it was designed to protect the people from the tyranny of government. But we need to get prepared. Everyone should act legally and peacefully. No offense. Don't attack people. Don't hurt people. But if they come after you, finish the job. Listen to what I have to say. They come after you, finish the job, because you have a right to do that. And unless the left knows that there's going to be a pushback, then we're going to be overrun by them, by these barbarians who are already inside our gates, such as in ancient Rome, wanting to destroy this country. And part of that is going to be a takeover by a President Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris. I mean, to tell you what we're dealing with, even this week, she accused somebody in some Midwestern state of being racist because they pronounced her name Kamala or Kamala, or God knows what the name is. I don't know myself. You're racist if you mispronounce a name. People mispronounce my name, and my name's easy, Clayman, okay? But I don't call people racist. But that's what we're dealing with. Everybody's a racist in this country, and white people in particular. It's payback time, and particularly white males. And that's what they're doing to the police in Philadelphia, and that's why Freedom Watch has a lawsuit on behalf of Philadelphia police, not just white police, but other police who have been persecuted. While at the same time, an African-American police officer can say that white people should wear masks because that comports with their inherent racism as like the Ku Klux Klan. You know, the police officers in Philadelphia who were, frankly, they stood down as Walmart and everything else was being looted. I mean, they're not going to get involved anymore. They have a mayor who's an ultra-leftist who fired my clients and other clients because of what they claimed were racist Facebook posts, which weren't. And we have a district attorney that was elected with the money of George Soros from the Jewish left. You've got somebody by the name of Larry Krasner. By the way, I'm Jewish and very proud of it. I'm pro-Israel. I'm Zionist. I can certainly be critical of the Jewish left. I know that if you're not, then you'll be called an anti-Semite. But I'll tell you who the anti-Semites are. It's the Jewish left. Starting with Marx, going to Trotsky, going to Alinsky, look at the reporters on TV these days. Who are they? People like Jeffrey Toobin, just was fired in effect by CNN and New York Magazine for revealing himself and masturbating on Zoom. Okay, I was almost going to send him an email saying, Jeffrey, at least now I know you have a private part, because I didn't think the Jewish left had a private part, to be blunt, to be humorous. But this is what we're dealing with today. It's an onslaught of these radicals of every group, and we've got to be prepared. We've got to fight back. And if the president has an Achilles heel, it's the fact that he really hasn't done anything about it. They haven't locked anybody up. There was the Insurrection Act. We had Alan Keyes on, a brave African-American. My African-American friends are brave, but my white friends run for the fences. And he could have locked them all up, but he didn't. And now they're out there, and they're ready to pounce on or about November 3rd. So this is my theme today. But you know what? You have to go out and buy my book. It Takes a Revolution. God is with us if we help ourselves. We have to help ourselves. We can't just say, oh, we're going to elect Donald Trump, and I pray that he will be elected. That'll be the answer. He'll be the political messiah. That's the theme of Sean Hannity and his book, Live Free or Die, which I call Live Free or Lie, because it is a lie. That's what it is. That book is simply a monologue regurgitated by his staff, and then at the end, vote for Donald Trump. That'll save us, and continue watching my TV show. There are other books out there from public interest groups that I was associated with, and I founded, which essentially say the same thing. Just support my group, and you're going to have it okay. But you know what? I'm not even saying that with regard to Freedom Watch or America's Sheriff. You have to join it and actually do something, not just sit around waiting for documents from the federal government. You know why the judges allow the documents to be turned over, these politicized hacks on both sides, Republican and Democrat? And I talk about that in the book, It Takes a Revolution, Forget the Scandal Industry, because they know it doesn't matter if the documents come out, because the Justice Department's not going to do anything anyway. And therefore, we the people need to rise up. We need to wage a second American revolution. It was John Adams who said, without ethics, morality, and religion, we will not have a lasting liberty. And an equally great founding father, I think the greatest, Thomas Jefferson. The book is dedicated, It Takes a Revolution, Forget the Scandal Industry, which you can get at Amazon.com, BarnesandNoble.com, BooksAMillion.com, all the major booksellers online. And there's an audio version too. He said, the biggest threat to our republic and our democracy are going to turn out to be the federal judges, which the Constitution has now allowed to exist under Article 3. Jefferson opposed Article 3. He said we were supposed to have checks and balances, but we're not, because we're giving them life tenure and they're unelected. But you know what? He was actually wrong about that. They don't have life tenure. They only can serve for good behavior. And I talk about that in my book. But that they will eventually, according to Jefferson, turn into despots and tyrants. And we will again have to shed the blood of patriots. And what else did Jefferson say? You got to read my book because we need to be reminded of this. He said, you know what? We're going to probably have a revolution every 20 years where we're going to have to shed that blood of patriots. And he said, what's a few thousand dead of the tyrants and the despots to preserve freedom and liberty? Now, he really didn't want that to happen, and I don't want it to happen, but he was giving a warning. And he was saying that unless we do something and unless we take action to prevent these federal judges from becoming all-powerful kings, then this is going to happen. Now, my book goes through my 40-plus year history of federal judges. At one point, I say there must be a good one out there, but for right now, I can't think of it. And don't be fooled, and this is another area where I've been constructively critical of the president. He doesn't know who he's appointing to the federal bench. Now, perhaps Amy Coney Barrett will turn out to be a good Supreme Court justice, but there are a bunch of hacks up there, except for a few, Justice Thomas and Alito. The rest of them are a bunch of hacks, including Kavanaugh. I hope Coney Barrett will not be one of them. But we cannot depend on that either, because they were appointed the same way, with political campaign contributions and special interest money. And they represent themselves and the people that got them their jobs. There's one judge from Rhode Island that paid $500,000 to get his job. There's a judge in D.C. that I've been in front of that I talk about, Randolph Moss, paid $38,000 of his own money to get a judgeship. And then they pay back who puts them on the bench. So that is why you have to go out and buy my book, and you have to take it to heart. I didn't write it for the money. It was inside of me for so long. I had to get it out all in one page. I write a weekly column that I needed to put it all together because the American people need to know that they don't have a government. Let me repeat that. You have no government. Donald Trump was out there all by himself, and even the Republican establishment tried to destroy him, and they've weakened him to the point that he may lose to Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. And that is the answer. I'll be right back with the second segment, A Special Prosecutor with Larry Klayman.
Fearless.
He's claiming he's crazy, he's racist, he's out to kill the Democrats.
Dangerous.
Don't care, he uses the court and the law.
Lethal.
This is bad.
Special Prosecutor
Very bad.
Larry Klayman.
If you'd like to support Freedom Watch and this radio show, go to freedomwatchusa.org.
I'm back with my friend, my client, a true American patriot that I know you love, Sheriff Joe Arpaio, America's Sheriff. We've recently formed a new group called americassheriff.org. There's two S's in the middle, americassheriff.org, to protect and to promote law enforcement and to bring hard-hitting legal cases on their behalf, not just to sit around and talk. And the sheriff has never just sat around and talked, and neither have I. And that's why he's America's toughest sheriff, and people have said that I'm America's toughest lawyer. I want to bring in Sheriff Arpaio. I want to get your thoughts first, Sheriff, on what's happening in Philadelphia this week. And, of course, we see France, there's a lot of beheadings out there right now, and they're having to deal with that. I mean, these are a different form of radicals over there in Europe. They're Islamic radicals that are lopping off heads in France. But there are also some in this country, and there are other radical leftists of every race, color, creed that want to take down the country, not just at the ballot box, but they want to take it down physically with looting, stealing, maiming, and killing. And give us your thoughts on what's going on in Philadelphia and what we can try to do to combat that.
Well, that's a continuation of what's been going on recently on these, whatever you want to call them, going into, cities and looting and doing everything they can do, assaults on police. But I look at it, especially with Philadelphia, I think it goes deeper than just the looting. I think, and this is just my own opinion after being around for 56 years in politics and fighting crime, it's very interesting is happening now just before voting. And, of course, Biden is from that state. And so the timing is suspect. And we all know, you and I think most people know, it's all politics. Just to get rid of our president. And so that's my opinion, but it's sad what's happening anyway. I can't understand, Larry, and I've used my armed posse. I've gone into cities and cleaned up the mess, many messes, especially illegal immigration and drug traffic. And I can't understand why more police presence or prosecutions or arrests are made when these situations happen. I mean, I'm concerned about foreign countries, and of course, the president has been doing a great job in these foreign countries. But when they look at TV, CNN, NBC, and they look at our country, the most powerful country in the world, and we can't take care of a few punks to go into these stores and grab TVs, and police just standing by because they're receiving orders from the mayor or other officials, and they just sit there and watch. What kind of a country, what kind of a law enforcement do we have today? So
that's right.
My concern.
You know that the district attorney in Philadelphia, Larry Krasner, was elected with the money of that radical leftist, reverse racist towards Jews. He's a Jewish himself, but he and his father actually confiscated the property of Jews going to ovens and gas chambers in World War II to give to the Germans to save their own skin. George Soros. He was elected with Soros's money, and they have been given orders to stand down. My brother was a Philadelphia cop. He's no longer. He went to law school, and thank God he's out of there, because you're at risk. I mean, you could be killed at any moment. They're left defenseless, and I represent, under Freedom Watch, we're going to be bringing these cases from now on with americasheriff.org. 8 Philadelphia policemen among 170 some that were fired just because they reposted social media of others that weren't even racist. But the mayor, Kenny, who's ultra-leftist, and Soros, and the police chief, Richard Ross, who was fired because of sexual harassment allegations, and now one, if you can believe this, Sheriff, her name is Danielle Outlaw from Portland, Oregon, hired only because, for cover, an African-American female. She just sits there and does nothing, and the mayor and the district attorney are running the show. Philadelphia, the city of brotherly love, has become the city of brotherly hate, the foundation of our democracy, where it all began, Independence Hall, my birthplace, on January 20th, 1951, place that I'm very proud of, place that I would like to relocate the Capitol. I think they ought to get it out of Washington, D.C. and let the criminals commit crimes against each other there. Let's bring it back to Philadelphia and squeeze the left out. I think that Philadelphia is a harbinger of what's going to happen on or about November 3rd. Even if the president wins, I think every major city in this country is going to burn. I think it's going to go up in flames, and I think we need to be prepared for that. I'll be right back with Sheriff Joe Arpaio.
And now, 4 words that make corrupt politicians make wee-wee in their little pants.
Transparency and the rule of law will be the touchstones of this presidency.
But we have to pass the bill so that you can find out what is in it.
Special Prosecutor Larry Klayman.
Be the one who makes our country great again. Go to freedomwatchusa.org and donate.
Sheriff, we were talking about what's going to happen on or about November 3rd. We're probably not going to know the winner on November 3rd because you've got states like Michigan with very corrupt Democrat legislatures that say that you can count mail-in ballots, including absentee ballots, up to November 17th. You got Pennsylvania, where the so-called Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, John Roberts, just rubber-stamped with the leftist justices that they can count ballots 3 days after November 3rd. So regardless of who is thought to be a winner of the presidential election and other elections, I think the radical left is going to go crazy, and they're going to use this as an opportunity to loot, burn, steal, maim, and kill. What are your thoughts?
Well, I've been around a long time, Larry. And by the way, thanks for being from a Commonwealth. I am too, Massachusetts, and my wife is too, Virginia. We just don't have anybody from Kentucky. So, no, I still have faith and confidence in our country. We go through cycles and all these situations, so that's just my opinion. but it's not going to be easy and I expect the president to be reelected, and it'll be his last term. You know that. I think things will change a little. He's not going to have to worry about fundraising and politics, which he doesn't much anyway now. No, I have confidence in our country, but it's very, very bad right now in this election year.
I hope you're right. I hope you're right, Sheriff. You come from a generation where people had ethics and morality to a greater extent. The current generation, the younger generation, has been schooled in socialist and communist ideology and anti-Semitism and anti-Christianity, anti-religion. And I'm a little less confident that things will be kept under control, particularly in cities like Philadelphia or Chicago or Seattle or Portland or Los Angeles. I have friends who were formerly leftists who are now very pro-Trump, more so than most conservatives, believe it or not, who are leaving town, going to the hills in and around November 3rd. The city of Beverly Hills has taken precautions. They're shutting down all the streets on that date. And actually, the Beverly Hills cops, from Eddie Murphy, they're actually doing more than in other cities because they know what happened just a month ago. There were people on the lawns of people that live in Beverly Hills with T-shirts that said, "Eat the rich," like Jeffrey Dahmer, "Kill the rich." That's what they meant. And I'm not as positive, but I hope that you're right. I pray that you're right. But in any event, let's talk about your book, because you just came out with a book. It's a great book. I'm in it. I wrote a book, It Takes a Revolution, Forget the Scandal Industry. You're in it in a major way, because I think people like you are the true American heroes, not the political hacks in Washington, D.C., our current president accepted. But it's gotten so bad in Washington, D.C., frankly, that the people no longer have respect for our so-called government. But they do respect people like you, and I hope that they will go out and buy your book. Tell us about it.
Well, sure, it's your ARPAIO, an American legend. That's the name of the book. You're in it too, Larry. So this is my third book. I wrote two when I was the sheriff, but I'm more interested in this one because it's hard to get the story out. You've been through all this with the fake media. So this one is rather exciting. It goes into much controversy. Just I, as a sheriff, happen to be hooked into on what's happening currently in government and in our country and so on. So David Thomas Roberts is the publisher and a good guy, and also Ted Nugent, my friend. Ted sort of did a forward. I don't really ask for endorsements, whether I run for office or on the book. So the book speaks for itself. I hope people read it. I go into the birth certificate big time, and also indirectly or directly, I'm hooked into the Russian spy guy Steele. So I don't know. I just happen to be, as sheriff, especially recently, hooked into these problems that's occurring right now. But I go back to when I was born and my history of law enforcement. And one problem I had, Larry, through my 24 years as sheriff, everybody looks at me as the sheriff. They seem to forget I had another big career in my life, 26 years with the U.S. Drug Enforcement, serving all over the world. So it's out there, and I have a little confidence it's going to be out there. And I know we're selling a lot of books. However, and I know, I don't see any of the major media even talking about it. I've been on 50 shows, 50 in the last 3 days. Interviews with talk shows. Italy was here yesterday, France. So they come from all over the country. I don't see anything on the news about this book or me, except negative. Every day I'm in papers around the universe, but most of it's negative. And so that's the way it is. But I'm relying on people to read books, get the truth, not always watch the media. The majority are slanted. And so like your book, you're trying to get the real story out. And I think that's one way we can do it. Write books, get the right people that support law enforcement, support the president, and get with it. So I'm pretty proud of the book, and I have to say it's exciting and controversial.
You know, what they do to you and my clients, okay, and I just filed a lawsuit yesterday on my own behalf against Josh Gerstein and Politico for doing a hit piece on me. We can talk about that in some other show. But you can't turn the other cheek, and you haven't. You sued CNN, you sued Rolling Stone, you sued the Huffington Post for calling you a convicted felon when you were simply slapped on the wrist for a misdemeanor for something that you didn't even do, that your deputies went out and did, which was, you know, allegedly profiling in a day worker site with regard to illegal aliens. I mean, where are you going to find illegal aliens if you don't go to a day worker site? In any event, this is what we go through. And it's why you don't see Sheriff ARPAIO on Fox News, because they play it safe. None of my clients are on Fox News. I'm not on Fox News. But the real story here has to be found on social media, if we're not censored. Of course we are. And in these books that we're writing, education is very important for the young youth of our people, because we had heroes at one time. And thank God you're still around. I'm still around. Others are still around. But we need those heroes. We need the leaders to come forward who are unafraid. Our founding fathers, you know, pledged their honor and risked their fortunes and their lives to form a new nation. And the least we could do, as I say in my book, it takes a revolution. Forget the scandal industry. You know, yours can be purchased online at every major bookseller as well as mine. Is that we need to forget the scandal industry. We need to turn off Fox News. We need to get up off the couch and put the popcorn, Coke, and beer down and get to work, because the president is going to need help if he's reelected. If he isn't reelected, then it's all on us. And the downward slide continues, regardless of who's elected president. And we need to renew this country. So tell us a little bit about America's Sheriff, why we founded it, what we're trying to accomplish, and why this is a group that you can join and support if you really want to do something other than just being entertained by watching cable news.
Yeah, you and I have been through some wars together when I was sheriff and even after I left. But I think this is a appropriate time to have something like this organization. I can't think of more situations that we're going to delve into protect our country as today. It's very important to protect the cops thrown under the bus. That's one of our missions, and also education, and also something you have, Larry, that I don't have. I have a gun and badge, but I'm not a prosecutor. So law enforcement can do their thing, but you need lawyers that have the guts to prosecute or to file lawsuits and at least take it through the courts. Many of these federal courts and local courts are corrupt, you know that. But at least we can fight it out and get the people behind us. That's the main issue. Get the people, the power of the people, very important. So I think if there's any time in history, this is the time for this organization to go forward and balance out the corruption and everything else that's going on in our country right now. And I always have to say the power of the press, whether it's good or bad, you know, they're very, very powerful. So maybe we can fight the media and maybe get the media on our side. Who knows? We never surrender. So I'm looking forward. This is very critical to me. I'm not retired. I'm working hard. Got the book. I got a movie in progress. And now I got this organization that we both formed. So I'm going to keep busy, Larry, and I'm sure you're not going to be retired playing golf.
No, I'm not. I mean, I play every now and then. I've got to have some sanity. I mean, at least when I play golf, if I hit a bad shot, it's my fault. When I hit a good one, it's to my credit. But you raise a good issue with the federal judges, and we've talked about that, and that's in my book, is that regardless of whether you win or lose, you have to try to hold these people accountable. Let them come in front of the so-called bar of justice, even if it is unjust many times. Let them spend their money. Let them answer the questions under oath, and let them the people be exposed, let them be exposed to the hypocrisy and the corruption that exists in our government. And, you know, as one example, this is my private case, Sheriff. I have a lawsuit against Joe Biden and his campaign manager, Kate Beckenfield, for interfering in my YouTube channel when I said we were going to commission a citizens grand jury to hold them accountable for obvious bribery in the Ukraine and Russia and China. They then intervened and had it removed. And I had to threaten Google YouTube to sue Biden and them in the same lawsuit to have it put back in 24 hours. I had a hearing yesterday, and the judge starts the hearing. It's by Zoom because no one goes in person anymore in front of a court. And he says, I got to agree with Mr. Klayman. This is one of the few honest judges. He says, Joe Biden is not above the law. He's going to have to be deposed in this case, but we're going to hear the dispositive motions first. But he made a very clear statement on that. And this is what we've got to do. We got to hold these people accountable. You know, I had a dream last night. I'll end it. It's bizarre. And this is why I pray the president wins, but I'm not so sure he's going to. I had a dream that I was playing golf, and I just had to two-putt to win. And behind me was Bernie Sanders, who was competing with me for this tournament. And he had a little chip shot to the green. He shanked it, and he also then dubbed the next shot. And he comes up to me afterwards. He says, Larry, I guess you won. He says, but I got to tell you something. This guy, Joe Biden, is an idiot. I mean, he's just stupid. I just can't believe he's going to be possibly the president of the United States. And Kamala Harris, she's even worse. And then I had a dream that I put my golf clubs down and they were stolen. So it's metaphoric, perhaps. And I hope it doesn't come to pass that this election could be stolen and an idiot like Biden could be president of the United States. I pray that does not happen. But that's why we need to be prepared. And we need to realize that our fate is in our own hands. And I think if the president doesn't win, again, I hope that he does. I support him. I will vote for him. I say that personally. But if he doesn't, I think he's going to start a network that actually is conservative, not Fox News, or maybe, or in 4 years run again for the presidency, because he'd be eligible to do that. He's got enough energy to do it. You know, I saw Joe Biden run across the stage yesterday in Florida. They must have jacked him up with some drug, which they've been doing. And I hope that someone will come forward and reveal to the American people before Tuesday that this guy is getting adrenaline or God knows what narcotic to jack him up so he looks like he's lucid. But apparently in my dream, even Bernie Sanders thought the guy was completely gone. Have you had any dreams lately?
I have some nightmares, but the Biden's in my book. I got a lot of interesting things. By the way, you can get it through Amazon. That's the best way. So we've got to get the people to read these books.
We do, Chuck. We're out of time right now. We're out of time. But thank you for what you do. You're my friend. You're my hero. And we'll be back. Have a nice weekend and stay safe.
Before he was a trial lawyer, he sliced him and diced him.
People used to ask me, Larry, what caused you to start Judicial Watch and now Freedom Watch, given the powerful forces in this country that put you at risk?
In a meat packing plant.
I'm the son of meat packers in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. I know how to slice and dice.
A very special prosecutor, Larry Klayman.
If you'd like to support Freedom Watch and this radio show, go to freedomwatchusa.org.
The verdict, fellow patriots, friends, Americans, people who are under attack. God forbid, but I do believe it will come to pass. On November 3rd, regardless of who wins the presidential election and the congressional elections, the major American cities and suburbs are going to go up in flames. We will not know the winner probably till just shortly before January 20th of 2021. And even then, we may not know it. It may be decided by our so-called Supreme Court, by and large, a bunch of politicians in robes. So pray as to what happens. But we need to be prepared. That's why I brought Sheriff Joe Arpaio on this week, and I urge you to buy his book. You can get it at Amazon.com, BarnesandNoble.com, all major booksellers. You get my book, It Takes a Revolution, Forget the Scandal Industry. Also online, there's an audio version if you want to listen to it on your iPad or on your phone or wherever the case may be. But it's time that the American people rise up. There is no political messiah. President Trump, as much as we love him, is not a political messiah. He will be blocked nearly every step of the way. We can see what's happening now with, help for people that have been hurt under COVID-19, blocked by Nancy Pelosi. The House will be retained as Democrat. We pray that even though the Republican establishment is worthless, including Mitch McConnell, that the Republicans retain control, because if Biden and Kamala Harris win the presidency and vice presidency, they're going to need to block every single initiative. And that's going to be hard because now it's a majority vote that gets most things through. But the reality is that we are under attack and we are in a revolution right now. The radical left, as I said, composed of radical blacks, radical Muslims, radicals of the Jewish left, radicals that are atheists, radicals that are LGBTQs, radical feminists, radicals of all colors, stripes, creeds, religions, you name it. They're going to be out there trying to take our head off, just like the radical Muslims are doing in France today. I'm not joking. Now, maybe they actually won't lop our heads off. They'll use something else to kill us. But they are coming for us. They want this country. They've smelled blood. They see that they could possibly pull it off. They see that our police are standing down. And frankly, I've been critical of the president on this. They see the president did not take action under the Insurrection Act. He played politics with that. He thought maybe the left would hang themselves. But unfortunately, the uptick in COVID-19 has taken all of that off the front pages as well. I'm not sure there is an uptick, but the American people are being led to believe that by the leftist media. In any event, we need to be prepared regardless of who wins this election. So I hope that you will go out and buy Sheriff ARPAIO's book, my book, because I give a roadmap on how we can wage this revolution peacefully and legally. It's different than the books that are out there right now that are just trying to capitalize off the election, and then they say, vote for Donald Trump. That's not going to solve the problem. The downward slide will continue. And for that reason, join Freedom Watch. Join our Justice League. Go to freedomwatchusa.org. freedomwatchusa.org. Go to americasheriff.org, americasheriff.org, 2 S's in the middle. Sign up to our Citizens Army. Get up off the couch. Forget about Fox News, okay? Entertainment's great, but you're not even going to have that when we lose our country. So we need to rise up as we did in 1776 in Philadelphia, ironically, where there's looting, stealing, and burning going on right now. The cradle of liberty is being destroyed as the police are told to stand down and watch what's going on by an ultra-leftist mayor, an evil district attorney by the name of Larry Krasner, elected with the money of George Soros, a self-hating Jew who sent his own people to the gas chambers and ovens, along with the Nazis, confiscating their property along the way in World War II. Again, I am Jewish. I'm a Zionist. I'm a big supporter of Israel. The Jewish left, along with radical Muslims, are the biggest threat to this country today. They're the biggest threat to Europe. They're the biggest threat to Israel. And we need to rise up, and we need to take our own future into our own hands. And that is why I wrote my book, It Takes a Revolution. It's been inside of me for such a long time. It is very powerful. It is very strong. I don't pull any punches. I don't pound my chest and say, oh, latest Judicial Watch victory, latest Freedom Watch victory. There have been no victories, because we see the state that our country's in. And that's why I want you to listen to the show, share it, and join Freedom Watch at americasheriff.org and purchase these books. I'll be back next week with another edition of Special Prosecutor with Larry Klayman. Until then, remember, God is with us. Thank you for listening to me. Until then.